My name is Michael Gilmore, and I'm the writer of WhizBang's blog and one of the co-founders of ParkLogic.com. It is so good to have you here with me today as we take a look at the second video in the impact of the COVID-19 virus on PPC rates and the domain monetization industry. And I think you're going to find this is riveting data. And I did the first video a week ago, and I'm doing this one right now. And I plan to do them and release them each week, give you an update of what's actually happening out there and how the domain industry is being impacted in a tangible sense by this terrible, terrible virus. Now, before we begin at all, I do want to say my heart and also my prayers go out to all those people that have loved ones or are personally suffering as a result of this absolute tragedy which is occurring right around the world. I pray that you guys can get through it, you hunker down, wash your hands, make sure you go into quarantine and everything like that as well, because we need to come out the other side of this stronger as humanity. But anyway, just on that, I'd like to continue now, and I'm going to flip across to my computer, and I've got some great charts I think you're going to love of what's happening in the area of traffic monetization. Okay then, so let me just get on that. Fabulous. Okay, so the COVID-19 impact week 2. So what do we have here? The first chart I find is the one that we pay attention to a lot at ParkLogic, and it deals with the RPM and the normalized RPM. Now, the normalized RPM, for those of you who don't know, is the revenue divided by the traffic we see coming to our servers. Well, the RPM is the revenue divided by what our monetization partners see at their end and what they recognize, because everyone has different filters. So the thing that I noticed straight away is those graphs I said last time in the last video, they're beginning to swing around. There's definitely a swing, which is really happening now with an upward swing, which surprised me, I must admit. And I was trying to think of the reasons why. And I remember initially in a first article I wrote on this, I suggested more people are going online and so forth like that. But then I began to reflect, okay, that's interesting, but why is the RPM swinging around? And then it clicked with me. I was watching a news show, and it was a news article actually, and the article was of a skateboard shop owner, and he had to close down as a result of the virus. So he closed down his shop, his bricks and mortar shop, and he said something to the interviewer. He said, "I'm moving everything online." And it was like, wow, okay, just a skateboard shop owner moving everything online. And so he went along and he's been doing that. And then there was another article, exactly the same response from a small business owner, moving everything online. In fact, the area we're wanting to pay attention to, by the way, is the last couple of weeks just there. I've just highlighted it in the interface. But so you got these small business owners. I think there's a mass amount of them moving online. At the same time, there's a lot more traffic, and the business owners are trying to be in front of the traffic as such. So that's why I think we're seeing an upward tick, which is quite fascinating. So the next thing is, oh, by the way, just before we look at this next chart, we did some analysis. My business partner, David Gibbs, did some analysis on what areas, well, what keywords and categories are really starting to rapidly increase. The number one category was unemployment, and which is not surprising. Like, I must admit, here in Australia, we have the employment queues are getting longer and longer and longer as people lose their jobs. Like, was it 30,000 from Qantas, 8,000 from the competing airline? There's whole shopping, like franchises right across the country are closing down. Like, there's bedlam right there as people are seeking work and also are needing social assistance as well from the government, which is not very good at all. But so unemployment was number one. I think it was number 2. There was a lot of interest in gym equipment, where people are thinking, well, I can't go to the gym anymore. What do I do? I've got to buy some equipment that I can have at home. There's also a lot of interest in smart televisions, where people think, what am I going to do at home? So I'm going to be quarantined. I've got to do something. So smart television and games. That's computer games. So that was just a generally like the categories. The other thing was loans. I think particularly like people are seeking loans, like how they're going to get through this period of time without work and so forth like that. I can only surmise. But that's what we're seeing. It's quite fascinating to see the impact of this on domain traffic and the interest. And what we're looking at is real human user behavior, which is amazing. By the way, the unemployment one, to give you an idea, it has like a 500% growth. So it's not just a little blip, it's massive, massive step ups. Okay, so earnings per click and click-through rates, what's going on there? As you can see from these graphs here, once again, we're focusing on these end bits. The earnings per click rate is trending upwards as I think those small businesses are coming online and saying, I've got to get customers, I've got to get revenue from somewhere. And so they're fighting for that traffic. But then we look at the click-through rate though, although it was trending up for quite some time, it's now tapering off. Well, maybe people are becoming a bit more used to, say, the advertising and so forth, the different techniques being used to try to get their traffic and their attention. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens to the click-through rate in next week's video, and also the EPC. The big change for the coming weeks is actually going to be we're moving to the next quarter. In advertising budgets and things like that. So is the earnings per click rates going to hold up or not? Or are they just going to collapse and everyone just protects their cash and says, oh, look, this online thing's too hard after all. So it's going to be really interesting to see what occurs. So volatility index. Wow. Now, what this is comparing at an aggregate level, it's comparing the like a Monday versus the previous Monday, or a Wednesday versus the previous Wednesday, and the changes which has occurred. And as you can see, there's been a massive upswing. I'm looking at the normalized RPM, and there's just been a massive upswing from one week to the next. It's just phenomenal, in fact. I just don't think this will be sustainable, but we'll just have to see what occurs there. So the revenue split, Google versus direct advertisers. What's going on with this revenue split? At one stage, I think it was mid last year, it was the other way around, where the direct advertisers were 60%, and in fact, I think I blogged on this, and the Google was 40%. It's definitely swung around the other way, and it's been consistent since the beginning of this year. And you can look at this very end point here. It really is not changing at all. It's about a similar sort of fashion. So the Google's got the lion's share of the pie once again. And despite all the COVID issues and all that sort of stuff, Google's still maintaining that, which makes sense in some ways, because if you're a small businessman or woman and you're trying to get online in a more meaningful way, the place you're going to go to is Google. And you're going to go to Google and start buying advertising. That's the natural reaction, inclination. And it's the tier 2 advertisers, or the next level, the direct advertising networks, they require a more sophisticated buyer, I think, of traffic. But it'll be interesting to see what occurs there. So this one here is the Google versus direct advertisers, the normalized RPM and RPM. So if you take a look here, now the one of the things you got to pay attention here is the normalized RPM for direct is in the red, but it's using the right-hand axis for direct advertisers, versus Google's using the left-hand axis. So Google's paying actually a lot less than the direct advertisers, a lot less. But what the things they have is the breadth of advertising. So they're paying by basically an order of magnitude less, like 10 times less, compared to direct advertisers. But take a look at the volatility, though. If we look at the volatility in direct advertisers, it's been swings, and now it's on an upswing, massive upswing. And and there's a huge upswing for the direct advertisers in the red. And Google's also just breaking out at the moment in an upswing. So to be quite blunt with you, at ParkLogic, we're doing literally record days at the moment. And it's just been amazing. And to see some of the numbers coming through, and our clients are just like, it's almost like, I hate to say party time of one, but party of one or maybe two, because we're all in quarantine. But it really is phenomenal to see this this occurring. Is it sustainable? Like I said before, we need to see what's going to happen next quarter, and if the budgets are coming through okay. We've been in communication with our partners, and our partners are seeing that the travel industry is completely collapsed, hotels, airlines, and so forth, completely collapsed. It's only natural. But other people are coming in to buy the traffic, which is really quite interesting. So it'll be interesting to see what happens across the coming weeks. Okay, volatility of Google versus direct advertisers from the previous workday. This is now comparing the previous workday versus the previous side is Google's direct advertising on normalized RPM basis. Now this is the volatility, and separating out the two. This is comparing the Monday versus the previous Monday, Wednesday versus previous Wednesday on the direct advertisers in red or Google in blue. And you can see Google is basically static, going up and down on a 7-day cycle. And that 7-day cycle is obviously the week. Well, if you look at, my goodness gracious, you look at those direct advertisers, and they've just broken out. I hope that it's going to continue and an upward trend, but like it's just a massive step up. They really are. So, like I said, I think this is a really exciting aspect of our industry to see what's occurring. When you look back in January for the red line, that's direct advertisers, you can see it was almost lockstep with Google in terms of volatility. And then we hit that mid February, and it just took off. It completely took off. And the direct advertisers are all over the place. So I think it's going to be a really interesting roller coaster for us all. And just to see what happens and how it goes moving forward. So next week, I think it's going to be critical, or even the week after, as we see more numbers come through the following quarter, and whether this surge of online investment is going to continue, and as those small businesses come online in a more meaningful way, as the country after country begins shutting down. At the moment, my understanding is the U.S. Is not sure how far it's going to be closing down or not, with what some of the things President Trump is saying. But so watch that. I'm definitely paying attention to that. But you look at a lot of the countries, like Australia as an example, it is just shutting down. You can just feel it. It is grinding down to a halt. Once again, I guess my prayers are with you guys. Particularly in the domain industry. You're my friends, you're my colleagues, and I really hope that you find these videos really useful, and that you find that they're informative to help you make decisions moving forward. I'm trying to open up some of ParkLogic stats and what we're seeing, and some of the things we'll be able to feed back to our clients and things like that, because this we find is invaluable information for making wise decisions moving forward in a absolutely tumultuous world economic climate. But anyway, thanks very much for that, and I look forward to your comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, thanks a lot for that. Bye. Hi, I hope you enjoyed that video and that you find this information that I'm providing through my blog and through these videos really interesting. Don't forget, subscribe. Whatever you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next installment I'm going to be releasing. Or you can click on the push alerts on the website. So either two. But anyway, thanks a lot. Bye.